just to let you guys know, good morning, happy Tuesday. I feel like there was something that I forgot to shoot, and that was kind of an introduction video. I don't think I probably needed one, but you know what? Being the way I was raised and who I was raised to be, I feel like I need to shoot one. So here we go. My name is Steve, but I'm a Mao Lee Jr., raised of two beautiful individuals. My parents, my father, Shativi, Mao Yupali, my mother, late mother, rest in peace to my beautiful mother, Ali Tasi Cowley. I'm a Mao Yupali, born Los Angeles, California, raised in Compton, Long Beach, Azusa, Cypress, and then ended up right here in Buena Park, and I haven't left ever since. Actually, you know what? I'm mistaken. Lived in Lake Elsinore. The reason why I'm giving that face is if you ever been out there, there's a lot of beautiful homes, but it was kind of a different environment for us back then. But anyways, my journey begins as a father um, back in 2000. Uh, my wife at the time, or my wife now, but at the time, she was a sophomore in college at San Diego State University. And I remember like it was yesterday, she gave me a call and said, "Hey, just a heads up, I'm late." And when she said those words, man, my heart kind of sank because, like I said, at the time I was 19, she was 20. I'm pretty sure a tear came down my eye, and I do remember being nervous. I didn't know how to react and or what to say to my parents. I was very scared, very scared. And I'll tell you one thing: I'll never forget, for as long as I live, the first time that I held my daughter, my oldest, Skylar Mao. Um, it was a feeling that I never, ever could fully explain. You know, here I am, a 19-year-old young man holding a brand new born baby, being at the time, I barely might have had a job. It's been so long. I didn't know what to think and or what to feel. But all I know is that at that specific moment when I held my daughter, I felt whole. And from going forward from that experience, um, all I knew is that I had to get to work. I had to grind. I had to figure out some way to feed my daughter. I had to figure out a way to, provide for my family. And, you know, quote unquote, like they say, shit got real. And at that specific moment, I finally realized after all those years of my father being so hard on me growing up, it finally made sense. And so that's my experience of my journey starting off as a father, going from there, the ups and downs of the next handful of years. Um, all I remember was instant stress came over my body, came into my brain as far as how am I going to provide for a child when at 19, I was still living at the house with my family. So the one good thing is that I knew, and the one example from my father that I knew and was automatic in my brain and in my heart is that I gotta hustle, and that there's no excuses, and that I gotta be there, and I gotta be there financially, I gotta be there physically, I gotta be there. And going forward, leading into that, you know, barely out of high school, barely was I'm pretty sure I was trying to play ball at Fullerton Junior College right here in Fullerton, California, and you know Those of you that are parents and those of you that are fathers know, I see a lot of the younger generation try to read books. Mind you, even my oldest now, she has her own son and has her own family. I remember her telling me, "Oh, she's reading this book or reading that book," and anybody that knows, that has children, that has a family, or has was even in my shoes as being a young father. I don't care how many books or what kind of books. It's not like school. It's not like studying for an exam, because I don't care how many books you read. Nothing prepares you for fatherhood. Nothing prepares you for parenthood. And the crazy part about it is, fast forward, going forward, you know, man, every time I had a child, it hit hard because the levels of stress just keep rising. And all that I know from the old school, the OGs, as far as my father and older cats that I know, you just hit the ground running. There's no excuses. You don't make excuses for if you're tired or if you don't know what to do. You figure it out. You got to figure it out. You do what you got to do. It is what it is. And so going forward, I'm gonna have these interviews with a lot of good men to kind of go over. But for me, fatherhood's been hard, man. For the simple fact that I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect human being. I've been through a lot, made a lot of mistakes. You know, I did a lot of right and wrong for towards my wife. And God bless her, man. Almost 30 years we've been rocking. Almost 20 years we've been married. And every day, I first thing I do is thank God for her. Because there's certain days where I go, man, I don't even know why this woman is still with me, bro. I can't lie. I've been through a lot and fought my own demons. But no matter what or how hard life got, all I knew is that I have to be there for my kids. My experience growing up in a Samoan household was tough. I can't lie. Uh, there was a lot of hard days. My father, all he knew how to do, because he himself didn't have a father growing up. You know, he is the third oldest of his family, and all he knew how to do was, once he touched down here in the States, in the United States of America, all he knew is, I never want to feel the way I felt back home as far as not having. And my children, when I have my family, they're never gonna do without. When I have my family, I will make sure to provide. And provide he did, man. I can't lie. My dad was amazing as far as a provider goes. And the crazy part about it is, by the time I had my own kids, I remember, I had Skylar, or we had Skylar, we had my son Capono, and I just would remember or recall whenever I was hard on my son, my dad would kind of pull me aside and be like, son, don't be so harsh to my grandson. And I looked at him like, man, and if you are of Polynesian descent, or Samoan, Tongan, Fijian, or even I know a lot of cats that of Hispanic descent, or share the same kind of background as far as tough dads that were no nonsense type of guys, that had a lot of structure, a lot of rules, and for him to look at me and tell me not to be so harsh to my kids was crazy, because you know fast forward to now that my oldest has a son, uh I'm feeling that, I get to feel what it feels like to be a grandfather, not only a dad, but now a grandfather. And with each passing year, with each child my wife had, um from Skylar to Capono to Kensington, um you know I, it's so funny because Skylar got a lot of the harsh old school me. And what I mean by that is, I wouldn't let her wear shorts that were too short or clothes that were too revealing by the time she hit her high school years. And then by the time my son came around, God bless him, he was the only boy at the time. He felt the wrath of what it means to grow up a Samoan boy, basically doing all the vows, which in Samoan that means translation, chores. And then fast forward to Kensington. At the time, was our last child, and I would let her slide with certain things, and Skylar would be like, "Man, we just let her do whatever she wants, huh?" And my son would say the same thing or make the same kind of comments, right? And it's hilarious. It's pretty funny because then I had to apologize to my oldest and say, "Listen, you was kind of like the guinea pig," and I don't mean it literally, or I just mean it figuratively, as far as you were the first one. As you grew, we learned more about parenthood and me about fatherhood. And when we hit to Capono, certain things he got away with certain things, and she would feel the same type of way, right? And then when we had Kenzie, man, all gloves off, all bets off, and both of them would complain to me about, man, that little girl, you spoil her to death. She doesn't listen, blah 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 blah. And it's just so funny to watch how our relationships grow and change, as me being their father to today, you know, 2025, I'm 44. I started my journey as a father back when I was 19, and it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. We've been through our ups, we've been through our downs, but it's definitely been a blessing. And I tell my kids every day, literally, because of you, you guys, I'm the reason why you guys are the reason why I'm still here. And they drove me to get up every day. They drove me to push harder for myself. They drove me to want to be a better version of me. And my kids, I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it real. And like the OGs used to say, we're gonna keep it funky. My kids have watched me through my ups, through my downs, through my highs, through my lows. And I really pray and hope that now at 44, I'm somewhat of a better father. And I feel like, it worked because they still like to somewhat be around me. I was a bit of a hard ass, bit of an asshole. I can't lie. Like I said, I'm gonna keep it real. Um, but one thing that's guaranteed, and I'm always give praise where praise is due. My wife. Going back to, like I said, I don't even know why she's still with me sometimes. But I, as a father, am blessed to have the relationship that I have with my children because of her. You know, she understands why I had to be a hard ass at times because, to be honest, uh, that's that's my role in this family: the disciplinary, the provider, and so on and so forth. And mothers are the nurturers. Mothers are, the glue to the family. And between her and I, we created this foundation that has done an amazing job, in my opinion, bro. Like I said, I'm not a perfect person. I don't claim to be this super duper dad, but like they say, man, the proof is in the pudding. God bless our daughter, our oldest. She graduated from college, high school, graduated from college, got her master's, started a beautiful family with my son-in-law, Brian Valadez, had my grandson, Bo Jax, and they're on their own, figuring out life the way things are supposed to be done. My son, my first episode, dropped him off to college. He worked his ass off since he was a baby, played ball, worked his ass off in school, obtained 4.0 every year in high school, and now is enjoying the fruits of his labors in college, paid for. My daughter Kensington Mao, episode number 2 is coming out. She's works her ass off in rugby. Found the passion in that sport, a beautiful sport, I might add. Um, yeah, and she's going into her junior year this fall, and by the grace of God and her hard work on and off the field in the classroom, we pray that she's going to obtain a scholarship through rugby. And so, fast forward 3 years ago, um, my wife calls me up and it's like, "Hey!" And at the time, her and I became emergency foster parents. And with that being said, calls me up, says, "Hey, what do you think about taking in another child?" And I got quiet because at that time I'm thinking, like I said, 3 years ago, it's 2025 now. We're in our 40s, and I'm kind of looking forward to kind of enjoying the tail end of Kensington's career as far as rugby and her last 2 years of high school. Our son is gonna graduate here soon, um, and I was kind of hoping to just chill. Now that I have a grandson, or I knew grandchildren were coming, kind of wanted to hang out and be old and enjoy life, and maybe possibly travel a little bit with my wife prior to grandchildren showing up. And so when she hit me with that, I kind of paused a little bit and kind of thought about it all. And she's like, "Oh yeah, there's a 2-week-old baby. Let's go see him. Let's go see him in the hospital." Social worker called, talked about emergency placement. And so we went down to the hospital and saw this little man, tiny little guy, man. And at the time, his name was David. Anyways, fast forward to about, we take him into our home, got everything ready again. And we have our son, at the time, was just a placement in our home. Month one goes by, month two goes by. And I remember Kelly waking up and saying, "Oh, the baby's crying." And I remember I looked up at her. I said, "Homegirl, you signed up for this. You get your ass up and go get the baby." Because getting up in your 40s in the middle of the night to try to pick up a baby is rough, bruh. But anyways, we get into month 3, month 4, 5, and 6. Time spent with this little guy. I can't lie. She had it in her mind, "Oh, we're just gonna care for the baby until they find a placement." And by month 6, month 7, I'm looking at her going, "Hell no. It's our guy, bro. Almost, we're going on towards closing in on a year. This guy ain't going nowhere, man." And so I told her, and it took her some convincing, but once we reached month 8 and 9, she kind of saw where me and the kids was coming from, because even my kids, they fell in love with him. And so the funny thing is, my wife's mindset was, okay, right? All of our kids are grown. They're not gonna want anything to do with this little guy. And not to be or sound harsh, but she's thinking like, okay, Pono's a senior in high school, Kenzie's a teenager, Skylar's about to leave and have a family, etc., etc. But as the months progressed, man, the bond and the love grew more and more with each passing moment. And sure enough, fast forward, you know, it's so amazing because my son at the time always wanted a baby brother. And I always kind of felt bad, but at that moment, we knew that back then we weren't able to have any more kids, because I didn't want my wife to have any more complications if we had chose to have a child number 4. So she basically shut down shop. Her body was going through its thing. God bless all you women that have children. And the changes that you got to go through. So we never in a million years thought we'd get to this side of the story. And so, sure enough, we made the decision as year one completed with our little guy in the house. I told Kelly, I said, listen, we got to be in the running to adopt him. We've put in the time, we've grown such a love for him. And so, sure enough, he's about a year and a half, almost 2 years old. And the social worker told us, like, hey, you guys are good. He's up for adoption. And obviously, because you've cared for him for so long, you're able to be the first ones in line. And so, about a year ago, our son, David was his name when he was born. But then about a year ago already, we were able to adopt our guy and changed his name to Sonny Alofa Paxton Mao. And it's wild, but you know, it's as if he was born with our blood. And but like I said, there's something that you'll always hear from me, and that's I'll always say. God always places us in situations for a reason. God always either provides or takes away, and this time He provided, and He gave us something that I feel like has helped form more of a completion of our family. And so, with that being said, yeah, that's my journey as a father. So now my oldest is about to turn 25, and my youngest just turned 3. As crazy as that sounds, we've been blessed. We've been blessed. I've been blessed as a father. So my whole entire situation, as far as who I am as a man and a father, um, it's kind of why I started this whole YouTube page. Because as the internet passes, as the years go on, this weird picture and narrative has been painted about us heterosexual males. And I don't know or what YouTube's gonna feel about my statement, but I'm here to claim and say that no, man, we're not perfect. Never have we ever claimed to be perfect. But I feel like I needed to start a platform to highlight good solid men, good solid fathers, and that's why I started this. And how else would I start it without giving a introduction as to who I am, what I'm about, and what this whole YouTube thing's about. And so I feel like, us as men, we're always pushed and pressured to be strong, to be strong, to be strong, to not show feelings, not show emotions. But I feel like if anybody's watching this, I hope you can see yourself in me or my guests going forward. I hope you know that there is a place for you. Hit my DMs. Let me know if you need a sit down. I kind of feel like it's going to be a therapeutic thing for fathers to kind of sit and watch. And if you'd like to be a guest, man, I'm all ears. I'm all open. I live in SoCal. Bang my line. Let me know what's up. And I hope this thing grows because I really hope and pray that the light of how fathers are the picture of how fathers are painted gets changed. Because to be honest, like I said, I grew up with my father, amazing provider. But even him himself didn't know how to be a father with his siblings because his father left at a young age, and he only knew what he knew. So even though he was there, he tried his best, but he provided. He was a hell of a provider. Still to this day, I love my dad for all that. But I took the positives from my father, left the negatives, and made my own way. And with the help of my wife as well, and with the help of my children as well. Because, as my kids got older, I'm not in a traditional house, Samoan house, I should say. And if you know, you know, right? But as my kids progressed and they gained knowledge and they have their own ideas, I always allowed them to. share their feelings with me. Because you know what? Even my 16-year-old, we had a conversation the other day, where I had to apologize for coming off a certain way to her. And I told her, I appreciate you voicing your opinion because I can't grow as a person if I don't know if my actions are wrong and no one tells me they're wrong. Well, I'm going to keep acting an ass. And so, with that being said, not only was I able to raise my kids, they helped me grow as a father as well. So that I hope that I can be a better dad to my little man who's 3 years old, Sunny Alofa. And then, with that being said as well, I'll know how to better navigate being a grandfather, right? Even though I can't lie, I'm gonna be like my dad is to my kids, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law is to my kids, how my mom was to my kids. I'm gonna spoil the hell out of my grandchildren and let my kids figure it out. And it's their time to learn how to figure it out as a parent. But yeah, that's kind of my introduction. I know it's been super lengthy, but I appreciate you guys tuning in, checking it out. Hope you guys keep continuing to like, share, subscribe, and share this. And for all you dads out there, share this to other dads out there and let them know they're not alone, man. We all struggle. We're all not perfect. We're all just trying to provide and do best and do right for our kids and keep being good dads. With that being said, see y'all soon. Episode two coming out soon. Road Trip with Kenzie, and then follow up a bunch of great interviews and lineups. So have a blessed day, man, and I'll talk to you soon.